Ever find yourself, maybe late at night, just scrolling, and then bam, a few days later there's a package at your door.
Hmm.
And you're like, oh yeah, I vaguely remember clicking buy on that.
Uh-huh.
Or, you hear someone pitch an idea maybe at work and you just find yourself nodding along thinking, wow, yeah, that actually makes sense.
Exactly. It's that feeling of, how did that work? That's what we're diving into today.
Yeah, the hidden psychology behind sales and influence. What's really going on when we decide to buy something or even just agree with someone?
Precisely. We're digging into the psychology of sales influence, looking at some of the hidden gears turning behind our decisions. And we're drawing quite a bit from Brian Tracy's work on this.
Oh, Tracy's insights are really useful here.
Yeah.
He gets down to the fundamental drivers. It's less about flashy tricks and more about understanding basic human nature.
Right. So our goal here, for you listening, is to equip you with a clearer lens to help you see these psychological factors when they're happening.
Not just so you can spot when you're being influenced. Yeah, but also to get a better handle on how influence works. Just, well, everywhere in life. We're pulling out the core ideas and asking, why are they so effective?
Makes sense. Where do we start?
Okay, so Tracy kicks off with this really fundamental idea.
Hmm.
Basically, in any interaction, we're either influencing or we're being influenced. There's no neutral ground.
That's a big one. We don't usually think about it like that, do we? Like, influence feels like something salespeople do, not something that's just happening all the time.
But it is. In meetings, at home, deciding where to eat.
Mm.
And Tracy says we actually have a choice. We can be more conscious, decide whether we want to sort of lead or follow in that influence dynamic.
It's about awareness then, recognizing that constant push and pull.
Exactly, just seeing it play out day to day.
And it's often subtle, isn't it? Not always a big, obvious pitch. Understanding this can make us, better communicators overall, I think.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's narrow it down to buying stuff. Teresa points out something interesting. People decide at different speeds. Some jump in, others hesitate.
Right. But he argues there are these universal psychological triggers or factors that affect pretty much everyone when they're in customer mode.
And what are those? What's lurking underneath?
Well, a key idea is tapping into subconscious needs. Things people might not even articulate, maybe not even consciously know they want, but they drive behavior powerfully.
He uses that analogy, doesn't he? Like drilling for oil. You've got to go deeper than the surface wants to hit that gusher of a real response.
Exactly. It's about those deep-seated desires.
Yeah.
And it makes you pause and think, okay, what are my subconscious drivers when I'm buying something? What oil are marketers trying to tap into with me?
Good question. And building on that, Tracy talks about specific buying influences. He calls them triggers.
Ah, yes, the triggers. These are like shortcuts, right? Factors that can speed up that whole decision process.
Yeah. So even if you weren't really thinking about buying, the right trigger can flip a switch.
Right.
Suddenly you're moving towards a purchase quite quickly.
And the salesperson or the influencer, their job is partly to provide those cues, those triggers at the right moment.
It's not about making someone want something they hate, but maybe nudging them along if they're already considering it.
Precisely. It's like finding the right key for a lock that's already there. It makes you wonder, have you ever felt that sudden urge, like, I need this now? What do you think the trigger was?
Oh, for sure. Limited time offers get me. Or seeing something is almost sold out, that scarcity thing. Which actually brings us to another related principle, reciprocity. This one feels really primal. Robert Cacciano talks about this too.
Ah, reciprocity. Yes, that's a cornerstone of social interaction, isn't it? This deep-seated feeling that we need to return favors. If someone does something nice for us, we feel, obligated to give back.
To keep things balanced.
Exactly. And in sales, this could be really simple things. A helpful piece of advice, a small free sample, even just a thoughtful follow-up note.
Things that build goodwill.
Right. And these small gestures, they create this emotional pull. It's not contractual, but it's a powerful feeling. You feel inclined to respond positively later on. Think about it. Someone helps you out. You naturally want to help them back, right?
Yeah, it feels wrong not to sometimes. Okay, another big one. Commitment and consistency. We like to think we're consistent people, don't we?
We really do. This principle taps into that. The idea is we tend to make small commitments first. And once we've taken that initial step, say, agreed to a meeting or answered a small survey.
We feel this internal pressure to act consistently with that first step.
Mm,
So small yeses can lead to bigger yeses down the line.
exactly. It's incremental. A good salesperson might try to understand your past buying habits, too. If you always do tons of research, they won't push for a quick decision. They'll provide research. They align with your consistency.
Make sense? Meeting you where you are.
Right. Think about free trials for software or streaming. You make that tiny commitment to sign up.
And then canceling feels harder because you've already sort of identified with using it.
Precisely. That's commitment and consistency in action.
Okay, what about what other people are doing? Social proof. This seems absolutely massive today.
Oh, it's huge. Social proof is basically looking to others to figure out what we should do, especially when we're unsure. If lots of people are buying something and seem happy.
It feels safer, right? Validated, less risky.
Exactly. And that's why testimonials, reviews, case studies, they're not just fluff, they are powerful signals. Tracy and others point out that good testimonials can seriously boost sales.
Seeing that people like you have benefited.
Yes, that similarity factor is key. Social proof often works best when the proof comes from people we see as similar to ourselves. It's relatable. How often do you check reviews before you buy anything these days?
Always. Especially for anything slightly expensive. It's almost automatic. Okay, next principle. Liking. Just people buy from people they like. Seems obvious, but maybe deeper than it looks.
It's straightforward, but don't underestimate it. Brian Tracy really stresses this. If we genuinely like someone, we're just more open. More open to hearing about their product, more open to the price.
It lowers our defenses, maybe?
I think so. It's about building rapport, making the customer feel good, feel valued as a person, not just a potential sale. It goes beyond the transaction.
More like building a relationship, even a temporary one.
Exactly. Friendship, or at least friendliness, builds trust. And trust is fundamental. You're just more likely to buy from someone you trust and, well, like. Think about it. People you naturally click with, aren't you more inclined to go along with their suggestions?
Definitely. Just feels easier. Okay, moving on to authority. This one's about our tendency to, well, defer to experts or figures of authority.
That's right. We're generally raised to respect authority, and that carries over. We tend to trust and follow the lead of people we perceive as having expertise or legitimate standing.
And how does that show up? It could be credentials, titles.
Sure, or endorsements from known experts, mentions in respected publications, even just symbols of success can sometimes create that aura of authority.
Yeah, the source mentions celebrity endorsements or a stamp of approval from a trusted magazine that can really shift perception and drive sales if Dr. Expert recommends it.
We listen. It's a mental shortcut again, isn't it? Assuming the authority figure knows best. How does perceived authority sway your choices? Maybe outside of just buying things.
Good question. Probably more often than I realize. Okay, next up, scarcity. We touched on this earlier. The only three left effect.
Yes, the scarcity principle. It taps into our fear of missing out, FOMO, when something is limited, whether in quantity or time.
It suddenly seems more valuable, more desirable. We feel this urgency to act now before it's gone.
Exactly. Limited editions, flash sales, countdown timers, they all leverage this. The perceived scarcity triggers that impulse. Even if you are on the fence, the thought of losing the opportunity can push you over the edge. Remember feeling that pull when something was almost sold out?
Oh yeah, that little red low stock warning is surprisingly powerful. Okay, let's talk about the contrast principle. This one feels a bit more subtle.
It is, but it's constantly used. The contrast principle is about how we judge things relative to what came just before. So if you show someone a really expensive item first,
Then the next item, even if still pricey, seems much more reasonable by comparison.
exactly. It's all about the context, the reference point you create. And this principle works hand in hand with the others.
How so?
Well, imagine that supermarket sample again. You get the free sample, that's reciprocity, maybe you chat with the person liking, then they point out the full-size product next to a much more expensive gourmet version that's contrast. Suddenly, the main product seems like a decent deal.
I see, it layers them up. So, you listener, next time you're comparing options, just notice how they're presented. Is the frame affecting how you see the value?
It's definitely something to be aware of. Okay, finally, let's touch on recommendations and specifically the power of one little word.
Which word is that?
Because.
Because.
Apparently so. Research suggests that just adding because, followed by a reason, and the reason doesn't even have to be incredibly compelling, makes people much more likely to comply or be persuaded.
Why? What's the psychology there?
It seems we're just wired to expect a justification. The word because signals that a reason is coming, and we often just, well, accept it more readily.
Interesting. And recommendations in general often work better than a straight sales pitch, right?
Yes, especially if they come from someone respected or framed as helpful advice rather than a hard sell. Using phrasing like, based on what you said, what I'd recommend for you is X because that structure encourages acceptance. How much does the why behind a suggestion matter to you?
A lot, actually.
Mhm.
A reason, even a simple one, makes it feel less arbitrary, more considered.
Exactly.
Okay, wow, we've covered some serious ground here.
Yeah.
Let's quickly recap those core principles. We had reciprocity,
That feeling of needing to return favors, the commitment and consistency.
our drive to stick with our past actions, social proof.
Looking to others to guide our choices, liking.
We're more open to people we like. Authority,
Deferring to experts.
fashi,
Scarcity.
wanting what's limited,
And
the
yeah,
contrast principle.
judging things relatively. And finally, the simple power of because.
That's quite a toolkit of influence.
It really is. And these aren't just sales tactics. They are, as we said, fundamental parts of how we navigate the social world, how we make decisions constantly.
So for you listening, now that you've got these concepts maybe more clearly in mind, think about it. How do these forces play out beyond just shopping? How might they be shaping your discussions, your beliefs, even your big life choices in ways you hadn't noticed?
Yeah, what other hidden currents of influence might be guiding you? This really is just scratching the surface, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's so much more to understand about why we do what we do.